Good afternoon, everyone. Glad you're here to join D&H and our ProAV team and our room collaboration and picking the correct solution for collaboration depending on the room size and depending on the audience. My name is Pete Hurley, and I have responsibility for D&H's ProAV and Collaboration practice. I'm joined today by Amy Schwartz, who is our Senior Vendor Business Manager for all things collaboration and ProAV. One of the great value adds that we have to offer to you that are on this call is that we have a dedicated group of individuals that are sales, vendor management, solution architects, and our professional services organization. I invite you to learn more about D&H and some collateral that could help your business by going to the dnh.com/ProAV website. A lot of really relevant and useful information that's out there. This session should provide a good opportunity for you to learn about multiple solutions that are available depending on the size of the room and your audience, and really as we return to the office, return to school, and then the hybrid space that will probably continue with us for the near future. A big takeaway for you on this call is to think that there is no project that D&H cannot help you with. We have a large lineup of product or vendor in our portfolio, over 500 of them, and we have 40 that are dedicated just for ProAV. And this is really important as you look to build out your bill of materials and identify the correct solution. And then we'll do the heavy work. We'll get in touch with the vendors, get the deal registration, identify the product that's available, and things like that. So please stay on until the end of the presentation today, as we are going to be rewarding each individual that stays on a Clear One Unite webcam. It's a really nice high-end webcam. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Amy.
Well, thank you, Pete, and hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today and for joining us at our ProAV virtual event. While we'd rather be with you today in person at some fun destination with a great view, today's event actually addresses how to stay connected virtually. Being able to communicate safely and effectively in a virtual manner for business, education, and personal needs continues to fall on us in the IT and AV space. It's now a crucial part of being a dealer to provide your clients with the best conference room solutions, and you do not need to know it all. We're here to help. I know Pete mentioned that. Whether you are new to the audio-video world or have been installing gear for years, we have the team to take you through the whole life cycle from design to procuring the right product, installation, and financing. So with that, allow us to turn over the show now to Nate and Jason from our ProAV team while they walk you through the making of a huddle room.
Thanks, Amy and Pete. We are here, as stated, to run through a solution. Jason, I see a whole bunch of different items here on the table. Can you tell me a little bit about what they are and maybe go into a little bit of detail? I see 2 different types of cameras, and I see some compute devices. Do you want to go over a little bit for our viewers as far as what these tools are used for?
No problem. Pretty much what we're doing today is we're trying to show a lot of the different products that go together with building the ProAV solution design. So part of my job here is actually putting together the solution design that involves all the different components that are going to be needed for an installation team to actually do the installation, as well as licensing and professional services for it, and also financing options that we have available. But to go over the products that we have on the table today, so the communication we're going to do is really around sort of simple build video conference solutions, either being a smaller room environment space, such as we would consider a huddle or a small conference room, and that's a room between up to usually a 4 and 6 participant room space. And then medium room spaces that usually go up to 8, 10, or 12. And then large room spaces that sometimes can go beyond 16 up to 20. And with some of these products and technologies that we have now, we can do it with just these single element devices that, 10 years ago, we would definitely have a more involved room system that had separate products within that room environment.
Yeah, so I see 2 different types of cameras here. There's a smaller one here. I'm assuming this one, well, I'm assuming, I know, this one is for a smaller room, probably 6 people, maybe 12 max. You got a larger camera here. Tell us a little bit about the differences between these 2 cameras.
So The smaller one here is an all-in-one solution, and both of them do have that ability, but obviously the bigger one can do a little bit more. So this smaller unit is a USB-only all-in-one video, microphone, and speaker bar product. So it just plugs in USB to any compute device, and it's able to use that device for communication, for using any soft-top conferencing. So, and this one is really meant for up to, a 6-person room space. It can be used in ones more, but that's sort of like its sweet spot for it. When it comes to this larger one here, this one is capable up to above 16 participants within a room space. It obviously has a lot more pieces and parts and technology inside of it. Obviously larger speakers, a larger microphone array inside of it to reach a larger audience, meaning the room environment, as well as camera product on it. I believe both of these are 4K cameras, but it allows you to do both digital and optical zoom, and they both do have a bit of a pan tilt, and both of these actually have the ability to do a little bit of what they call speaker tracking communication. So different companies have different terminology for it, but what it really means is it sort of frames all the participants in the room and helps track the camera to that group of people within the room environment. But also this larger one has the ability to be connected to a network interface where it doesn't just act as a USB device. It has a dual purpose mode, so one, it can be a USB device to a compute device, but this also does have its own compute internally and can be registered to different cloud services. So you could just have this unit by itself in a room environment and perform a lot of those features.
Yeah, whereas with this one, you're going to need a USB, some type of compute unit, whether it be a laptop, one of these devices over here.
Correct. Yeah, there are many different form factors too and use cases. So depending on size of the display, the type of resolution, just how much compute device do you need, and obviously different platforms. So, that's why we have, a selection, a few, smaller stick device that is capable of doing like up to 1080p video conferencing, and then some larger devices here that are capable of doing 4K conferencing. And then we also have human interface devices. So multiple companies do make interface modules that instead of using a keyboard and mouse product connected to that compute, this connects directly to a usually, for most cases, a custom compute device that has been properly imaged for a certain cloud service. So it allows it to directly connect to it, and then it also sees your directory. So that's all the other people within your network. So if you want to be able to call somebody that's in your same directory, you can do so, and it'll appear on it.
Yeah, so I know a lot of these, from the sales side, we always look at verticals, and I know a lot of our resellers look at verticals as well. I would say a lot of this equipment can be used in almost any vertical. We've had House of Worship using it. We've had medical facilities using it, schools constantly. Every day we're on a call with somebody about a school project. At corporate, small business. So tell me a little about where you think this is going in the future. Are we all moving to more of a video interface with people, or people doing the work from home?
It'll, no matter what.
Hybrid?
Yeah, the term that a lot of people use is a hybrid work environment. So the way that I look at all these pieces of technology is that these are tools that we have to our disposal to use as communication aids. So I feel that nothing's going to take away from that one-on-one and physical group mentality of just people in general, but these devices allow for when those moments aren't available. So, and that's why we have such a different array of them. Obviously, we don't have any, tiny webcams up here because that's not a room solution, but that still brings that participant into that room environment. So, no matter what, I just don't see people not wanting to come together. I feel it's going to be it's always going to be a changing and an evolving workplace, and this is just everywhere and just human nature. That's my understanding of it, and from all my years doing video conferencing, because when I started doing this, it was giant boxes in server rooms, and everything was just like standard video signal, 480, which is really low, like your old school TVs. Everything was CRT TVs at the time. We had plasmas and such like that. A whole different environment when I got into it as to what we have today. And then obviously before that, there's just so many different pieces of technology. But where we're at today and the access that we have to this is really staggering, and what we can do with it. So it's really helpful, I feel.
Yeah, I think over the past year, I'm sure a lot of companies have realized how much money they're saving on travel with using devices like this. let's go back a little bit here. We have some more equipment back here for a...
So just to give a quick understanding of, so we went over sort of, I would say the stars of the show. So a lot of parts and pieces that people see, it's going to be sort of the camera products, the speakers, the microphones, as well as like we have right here, a large format display. So they're going to be the things that people see within the room space, but there's a lot of other parts behind the scenes that people don't usually see but are necessary in the room. So right here is just an example of pretty much one of the standards of the industry for a mounting solution for a large format display. It pretty much gives the ability to mount most displays within, normally what we consider as a 32-ish is considered one of the small sizes that is in the large format category, but normally it's around a 40-inch or so above is the most common that we have. And then this usually goes up to a 98-inch display. So technically this mount can do a much larger display. And they do have, the manufacturer of this does actually have a lot of different attachments for it, for mounting the camera bars onto it, mounting speakers onto it. So we have a lot of different options. This is just one of many. Same thing with the TV. This is just one model that we have and one size that we have. This is a 55-inch display, which is a very good standard for medium room spaces, but we have, like I said, down to 32-inch in large format, up to 98-inch. And then obviously we have video wall solutions that can go up to, I think we have one that'll do 15 by 15 paneling, up to 55-inch displays. So if you do the math, I mean, it's several hundred inches of, of image space. But for most use cases, especially within the room environments that we're talking about for video conferencing, usually up to a 98-inch display is going to be the most common. But video walls, as well as tile LED video walls, there's just so many different options that we have, and we definitely have the ability to quote them as well.
And while we have this open, I'd like to kind of call out a little bit of the difference between, buying a mount, a random mount online, and buying a mount like this. So this mount here has what's called micro adjustments. So when you're mounting it on a wall, sometimes even if you use a level, it might look a little bit off. So for instance, I was telling you the other day about how my ceiling is not level, so my screen looks unlevel. If you have a micro adjusting mount, you can then adjust it while it's already mounted. So you're not gonna have to take it down, screw more holes in. So this type of mount really saves a lot of time on labor costs and a lot of time on the install.
Yeah, just like anything else, think of it as a cost price to use case ratio. The reason that we have this one here is that I almost consider it like one of the standards in the industry for its use case, its adjustability, and just its versatility. So, but same thing, it has a cost associated with it that, gives it that flexibility, and sometimes people just don't have the budget for it. But we do have the additional options for those lower budget solutions if necessary. But we definitely don't want to forget some important factors here. So a lot of things that we talk about is actually cable management. So these are just Velcro ties. So just some small things that a lot of people keep forgetting about that we do quote. And sometimes the installation partners are going to have this stuff available, but we like to quote it out anyway. So as well as long cable ties. My preference has always been a minimum of 1 foot cable tie. It can obviously come in many lengths. But for a lot of ProAV use cases, these have been some of the best ones that I've used over many years, as well as just so many different versions of Velcro ties. I know it sounds trivial, but for a lot of the technology that has actually been done behind the scenes, these are important factors, and people actually do have a big preference around it. As well as Velcro ties are really preferred for category cable, as well as any fiber cabling, because this doesn't allow you to put too much tension or tightness onto the jacket of the cable that could cause any issues or interference.
Yeah, and I would say that the Velcro probably looks a lot better in areas where people are going to be seeing, as opposed to the zip tie might be more behind the scenes where somebody's not even going to look. You have these look much better. Plus, you can add more cables later on and not have to redo another zip tie.
Yeah, I all know about cutting zip ties off to add more cables and put more zip ties on, and that's sort of just the reality of using zip ties. Just a little bit more to communication around cabling. I do have 3 different lengths of cables in different colors here, and this is really just to illustrate that for a lot of ProAV needs, depending on the length and environment and technology being used, Cat5e is considered, the most basic, very wide adopted, and can be very versatile. There are some pieces of technology that say it needs to be Cat6 or Cat6a or a shielded cable, but for a lot of it, either Cat5e or Cat6 is going to work within the room environment locations. A lot of it comes down to also distance that the cable needs to be run, but when you're doing short runs, it's not as necessary. As well as the reason I have color coding here. Sometimes I always prefer to have it where, I have one color that's going to be the network connection. So these are going to be actually tied to the network at the location, so whatever the LAN is, and then interconnectivity cables, so different colors. Also comes down to if you're doing a special podium, I always break out with different colors, and we actually have all of these available from different vendors too. Just some more things that most people don't really think about, but it is a very useful part as well.
Speaking of cables, we have this cable over here that looks very different.
The most unique of
any
cables
cable that I've ever seen. So,
yeah.
Do you want to go into a little bit of detail on that cable for our viewers?
So this is a product from one of our vendors that allows a solution to be a BYOD solution, so an existing solution that would be for an appliance. It does have other devices that are right here, so there are other interfaces and power for it. But what it does, it allows for a bring your own device connectivity. So, this is the part that you don't see, but what you see on the table is just the purple part here. And this is a everything communication. So it does the audio, the video, microphone, also power. Pretty much it's an all-in-one lightning connection. So very similar to what you have for most docking stations. What the manufacturer did is they just sort of took that docking station approach of how all the communication is throughput and turned it into an interface for a lot of the AV products, because a lot of this technology works on just open universal USB communication. So that's definitely a value of this product here. And once you do, just like anything else, all technology has updates to it. It's all interface with computers. So there's definitely a few different items that you'll do the updates to it, get everything connected right. Manufacturer supports as well. So a lot of the manufacturers that we have very good tech support. So if you need post-sale support, they're definitely a great resource.
Yeah, and I would say let's not forget about some of the other cables that we have here that are very important.
I love talking about cables, just so everybody knows.
Cable maniac. HDMI is very important, as you know.
And a very particular HDMI as well. So real quick, I know no one probably can see this here, but there are different types of HDMI cable retention devices. So this one here actually does have two little teeth on it, and there are a few different versions of it. So different manufacturers make it. But what it does is it allows for a little more tensile strength. So when you actually have this plugged into a port and you have a bunch of cables plugged in behind the TV and you got to reach up under there to do XYZ, it retains the cable better within the port. I know a lot of people probably think like, oh, I'm going to buy the cheapest cable for it. These obviously cost a little bit more, but for me are preferred, as well as the flexible jackets. So there's many different versions of cables and qualities out there, but we like to stick with ones that we know have a very solid track record and also come with lifetime warranties.
Yeah, I would think if anything, you want to spend a little bit more money on cables, because if that cable goes out, now you have to pretty much run that cable again to put a new cable in. So
yeah, certain special cables.
Some time. You want to tell us a little bit about this cable here, USB?
So in multiple different use cases right now, since a lot of technology has gone a very USB communication fashion, this is actually a fiber cable. So within inside the core, there is a light to copper transfer on each end here, and this is actually a fiber cable. So it is just fiber strands that carry light for the communication, and on both ends of it, it does require power. So for solutions that have a dedicated power supply on both ends, which is a lot of in-room solutions, this has become more of a mainstay use case. We really wouldn't use special cables like this as much in the past, but with the changes that we have, and sometimes the category cable is insufficient within the current technology that's out there, and also just like we spoke to before about budget, sometimes these are going to become useful. This one's a shorter one, around 25 feet, but just so everyone knows, most USB 3.0 and on, when it's just a copper cable, ends at around 10 feet. And after that, it is really not rated for it to communicate the transfer speed. So this is a fiber cable that is rated and can do I think it's actually 3.1, so it's rated to, I believe, 10 gig transfer speed, and then you have 3.2 is rated at 20 gig transfer speed, and then Thunderbolt is, I think, at 40 right now, which is theoretically capable of doing 80. There's just so many different options out there, but a lot of stuff only works on the older version of it, and we have these up to 100 foot in length as well. But I know it's another cable, but it's very important that these right parts are on your bill of materials. So when we do the solutions, and that's why we have the review calls, we add the products that you're going to see, but these are the items that are behind the scenes that are necessary. It's not going to work without it.
Yeah, I think some of the times when we're doing our discovery calls, we may not even discuss the cables that much, but we just put them on the bill of materials for the customer. Just so they know what they need to complete the whole project. Even the zip ties too. I mean, Jason will put the zip ties, he'll put Velcro ties on your bill of materials. He makes sure that you have that full bill of materials with everything that you're going to need to meet that goal of the end user customer.
Yeah, sometimes the reseller might not be doing the installation as well, and it's going to be a third-party service, or they're not very familiar with ProAV as well, and they're much more, but they have the relationship, and they're much more in tune with the IT needs. So that's why I always try to be very inclusive with all the products. Just one other basic piece of technology too is many different types of surge strips out here. This is just one version of so many options that are out there. The idea is that just to provide the information like, oh, well, why do I need more surge strips and stuff like that, is behind most TVs, you might have a clock outlet, which is a recessed single receptacle, or you'll have a standard duplex outlet behind it. So just so everyone understands, like, this device has a power supply, this interface module has a power supply, the human interface touch device is a PoE power supply. The compute has a power supply. Everything needs to be plugged in somewhere, and you're going to run out of outlets. And there's many different versions that we have that are also designed for behind TVs. So obviously you need more than those 2 outlets, as well as having ones with right angle plugs on them too. That makes it a little easier to get all these products behind the display. Just so everyone understands, most mounts, you usually have less than 2 inches between the wall and the back of the TV. So pretty much we're trying to get, a large array of cables and products and technology, as nicely as we can, and with only the required cables that you need. But we also need to make sure that all of those products are managed and connected appropriately.
And I don't know if we touched on these yet, but we have some mounting brackets here for some of the cameras.
Yeah.
Some of them will come where you can just easily mount them on a wall, but then there's some instances where maybe we need to mount them to a cart, maybe we need to mount them to the top of the display, or maybe they can't mount to the wall. Do you want to go over a little bit about maybe some of the mounting hardware here?
Yeah, just to make it brief, just so everyone understands, we have this solution that actually comes with a pedestal mount, but it does not come with anything else. So if you have a credenza or a piece of furniture that it's going to sit on, that's its use case out of the box. And the manufacturer has a wall mount kit, so it's pretty much mounting this to a wall structure, and that's what's in this box here. And this is a little bit more of a universal mount. What this does is it sandwiches the communication. I'll pick it up here real quick, Nate. What it does is it uses slotted rails to mount this product actually below the TV or above the TV location, and it goes in between the TV and the mounting bracket itself. So it's just another tool just to understand when people see these items on a bill of materials, like, well, why do I need that? Is it extra? Everything that we quote, has a requirement and a use case. This is also for cart systems as well, not just for TVs, because the same type of mounting on a cart is the same VESA pattern for if you're mounting it with a wall-mounted bracket. So this works just as well for both.
Yeah, we also have mounting for the compute units as well to mount behind a mount or a cart as well, correct?
Yeah, some of the dedicated compute devices actually come with it and other ones don't. So we have universal mounting brackets as well from different vendors. And then I guess the last thing to talk about is the tools. So I've been doing this job for many years. I was an electrician before, and I've done many different things. So I've acquired lots of tools in the trade. Just the idea is to understand that if the reseller's doing it, there's a lot of different. Sometimes we try to put together a solution that you don't have to have custom tools. The most custom tool sometimes is like an RJ45 installation dispensation tool, which is sometimes is referred to as Cat 5 or Cat 6 crimpers. Just as a little visual aid here, the idea is to show this is, I always carry around a lot of small tools like this. This is just a, little mini bit driver with an extension on it that can be pulled out for a drill. These tools are just universal. There's so many different ones out there. I've developed a kit of tools that have developed for that use case, pretty much dedicated for ProAV, such as like a micro pistol grip drill for doing the small holes, as well as the connector devices, interfaces, zip ties, crimpers, diagonal cutters, a utility knife. There's just so many different parts out there that are available. But just don't remember that, these parts are necessary. Stuff's not going to go up by itself. And what we really want to make sure is that everyone knows that we have the augmented professional services available option. So if the reseller doesn't feel comfortable doing the installation, or the end user, for whatever reason, D&H does have the availability to provide a quote for the installation of services, as well as the financing options as well. So if it's something that they're looking to do a large rollout and they want to be able to finance an option for, let's say, a 3-year time period, we can put together an entire solution where it's all on a leasing 3-year plan service. So it's just, a monthly fee. It's not everything up front.
Yeah, and the financing is a big part of this because a lot of times this can get pretty expensive going into it, but a lot of times we have some of our leasing programs that we can do around this. There's also assignment of funds that are available as well if the end user is a government or education entity. So there's always options. So don't think this a project's too big for you, or maybe it's out of the customer's budget. There's ways around that to figure out how to get them what they need for the price that they need.
Yeah. No, there's always a solution out there, and just the products that you see here is just a very small selection of what D&H has to offer. We have, I believe, over how many vendors? Over 400 vendors. Now I know it's just not in ProAV, but we also interface with ones in the IT segment. But we have over almost 40
to 50 vendors, I would say, that focus on
ProAV
products. And I mean, we don't even have on this table our ceiling mics, our pan-tilt zoom cameras. So there's plenty more once you get into those larger meeting spaces that we can put together for you on projects, and we can make it as easy as possible.
Okay, Nate, so before we go, we're going to go up to one of our conference rooms that we actually put together a solution in to use as a demo case, and we're going to just show that off to everybody.
That sounds great. Let's go. Here we are in one of our corporate conference rooms. Jason, we have our human input device on the table. We have our cable for the bring your own device. We have our camera up here. This room holds about 12 people maybe. Do you want to go into a little bit more detail about the products that are in here and how they work?
No problem, Nate. So pretty much you said everything about the room space. So this is what we would consider a medium to large room environment. A standard conference room where it has a static in-place table, it doesn't move, a large format display, and then we have the larger interface that is the all-in-one camera, microphone array, and speaker unit. So we have our interface module. This allows for registration to cloud service and allows for the directory and communication. So either this can be seen on your Active Directory, so like within Outlook for your calendar invite, so you can actually invite the technology to the room space, as well as having a BYOD solution in here. So this one is registered to one cloud service, but let's say one of the service that they wanted to use isn't the one that this is registered to. So the BYOD connection here can just be plugged into your computer that you bring in, and it sees the technology as a USB peripheral. So no different than if you put on your headset, like a USB headset, or if you have your USB webcam that you would have at your house. This sees all these pieces of technology in the room space, and then you can utilize this room with your laptop for that cloud service. So it allows for all that connectivity, as well as us having a dedicated conference phone system in here as well too. So sometimes companies like to split up the audio side from the video and content sharing solution. So, but this room has all these different options in here, and it works very well.
All right. Well, great job, Nate and Jason. Thank you all so much for sitting through the show with us. We appreciate you joining us today. We actually have Nate and Jason live joining on the feed now. So if you have any questions for either of them, we can certainly take some questions from the audience. I know there was one question that was sent out earlier in the recording, where Jeff, you were asking about how to make decisions if we have a list of the items to build out a solution. And I think Nate was trying to respond, but are you still out there, Jeff? And did you get your question answered throughout the remainder of the presentation? I'm not sure if we get to hear him. I'm looking to see if there's a reply in the chat. And Nate, you're on. So I know you had started to respond, and it might have been in our internal chat box, but if you would
Jeff
like to
here.
answer.
It says Jeff, I'm here, so I don't know if we just can't
All right.
hear
Well, then
him.
Nate, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and sharing a little bit about. He might not have checked back in yet.
We've actually put together some, I guess you would call them hard bundles. They're not bundles that you can necessarily order, but kind of interchangeable parts based upon, you know, the room size, the needs of the room, that kind of thing. So we could definitely, you know, put that together for you as well if you want a couple options. I actually even have a PowerPoint available that you can show your customers for different Huddle space solutions. Make it easy, plug and play solutions.
And if you do go out to our website, our mini site, dnh.com/ProAV, our line cards out there, and you'll see numerous camera selections that are available, different vendors, and recognize some of the vendors actually have the ability, as Jason and Nate spoke about today, to incorporate Zoom and Teams as you build out a bigger play that's tied in with collaboration software.
Right. And then, I mean, the cool thing too is even if something doesn't meet a checklist that we already have together, Nate and Jason and the whole ProAV team are there to help build out any custom needs and just make sure we're matching up with the right solution. So I'm going to hesitate another moment to see if there are any other questions. Looking at the chat over here, I don't see anything else. I do want to mention
I did see a good question about where to mount the camera, above or below the display. As you saw the room that Jason and I were in, that room is a better fit to mount below the display. Really, it depends on the room. Jason, would you say it depends on where the participants are in place of the camera, the height of the display being mounted, what type of tables in there? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of different options that you have. For most conference environments, we mount the camera between 48 to 52 inches, all finished floors, just a very common construction building term that we use. But a lot of it comes also down to the closest and farthest participant that the camera is supposed to be capturing. So we try to keep everything what we consider seated eye level. And then if it's something where you're trying to capture a much larger area or a larger group of people beyond just more of a linear table, that's sometimes where we mount the camera products above the displays. And that reason is so we're capturing more of the entire room space. And that's usually more in not just a linear rectangular table, but usually a U shape or a larger training environment where you could, let's say we have like 50 people in a reusable or reconfigurable room space. So in that fashion, just like anything else, there's many different ways of doing it, but that's usually the preferred way when it comes to conferencing use cases for the camera height.
Yeah, I thought that was a great question.
And there's a flurry of questions that have come in here, I see, from Rodney, Dale, and Dave. So we can get you information on that individually. But the one key one there from Rodney is that we have a full team dedicated to professional services. And that would include a site survey, bill of material build out, all the way through an install, provisioning, things like that. And that's run by our professional services that we work closely with. And both Jason and Nate can be point persons on that. But we have a dedicated team based on territory, wherever your headquarters office is, whether it's in the East, Midwest, or the West Coast. So I wrote down some of those names to Dave, Dale, and Rodney. Make sure that we respond back to those, and/or if you stay on board here, Nate and Jason, if someone could just respond to question from Dave, Dale, and Rodney. Keep them coming. Great questions.
So Alicia, we can definitely set you up with somebody that can create a solution for you and your customer. We can also even get on a call with you and your customer and do a discovery call to figure out what their goals are, and then put together the bill of materials based on those goals. I would shoot an email to proav@dnh.com so we can set you up with the right person.
I'm glad, Nate, you brought up that. That's our a team alias for those on the call, proav@dnh.com. It's a manned email box. Nate's one of many people that are in that during the course of the day. So thank you.
And I see another question on here about audio. When we were filming that, we were actually using a boom mic for the video, but there is a microphone that's actually built into the camera that's in that room. That's more of a huddle space. I think 12 people were in that room. We do have solutions like ceiling microphones for larger rooms. Usually the ceiling microphones will pick up about a 15-foot radius. So depending on the size of the room where people are sitting at, sometimes multiple ceiling mics are required. So yeah, definitely have a lot of different audio sources, but a lot of the Huddle cameras can pick up, about probably 9 to 12 feet, Jason, usually, of audio.
Depending on which model, some of the smaller ones are only really meant to pick up around 4 people around a table, but they have ones like the one that was in that room space. The larger solution ones, they state that they have ranges pick up of up to 15 feet distance away from the speaker bar product. Also comes down to room environment and acoustics. So there are several, let's say, environmental factors that are in the room space to consider, but it does a pretty good job. It also, if everyone is looking at the table or looking directly at it as well. When you obviously turn away from microphone, it's much harder for it to pick up the reflections of your voice. So a lot of audio that's picked up is being picked up from reflections within the room space, not just from you speaking. So that's usually the difference why we have microphones that either you hold up to your mouth, such as like a handheld microphone, you hold a few inches away from your mouth, or you have like a lapel microphone or a Countryman that goes over your ear, and then there's athletic microphones as well that you can use for capture. So there's lots of different solutions, but for our cases for in the room environment, we definitely, the ones that we have for the beamforming arrays do a really good job, as well as we have single point microphones that you can put in a room space too, like a ceiling mounted beamforming array microphone is able to pick up pretty much like a 25 foot by 30 foot-ish size room area with a normal ceiling height between like 8 to 9 foot. And it'll pick up everyone within that room environment. So there's definitely been a lot of management of acoustical values. So we don't have to have a bunch of dangling microphones, because that is, that was an aesthetics thing from years past. So we have technologies now where we can go along with both the aesthetical design of the room space as well as making it usable and functional without any sacrifices.
All right, we do have a few more questions coming in. This is great. Thank you so much for the audience participation. Let's see, Cesar, it looks like Nate might be answering you, but Cesar is asking if we can help with moving a client to the cloud, including virtual server and desktops. That is something we absolutely can help with. However, our ProAV team would be referring you over to one of our teammates on the cloud services team. So you can still use our email box that we can connect you with the right folks and get that taken care of. Let's see.
Yeah, and on the pro services, we don't just work with one company. We have numerous companies throughout the country do anything that's AV related. And in addition to that, many of our customers are traditional, also provide IT services, laptops, Chrome, things like that. And that's the other side of the professional services. So think really wide with the service outline, and it's US and Canada. I saw somebody asked for help in Canada. We are a North American distributor. That is our exclusive focus. So we can definitely help. Again, ProAV we can quarterback you up to the team up in Canada.
And
Right,
Rodney,
right.
on installation services, the options are pretty much open. We just need to know details up front about what's needed. So if there does need to be power run to an area, that's something that we can arrange with the installation team as well. And Michael, there is a survey checklist form that we can give you. It's very vague because every project is very unique, but it has some of the main things that we're going to need. Like pictures are always great of the room. Room dimensions are very important. So, I mean, if we have pictures, room dimensions, an idea of how many participants will be in the room, like Jason said earlier, how far away is the furthest participant from the camera and the closest, that'll help us kind of, be able to put together a solution for you.
Great, and I'd like to call out, we do have some poll questions that have been posted. So please, if you can take a moment and give us your feedback, that's also helpful to us with, putting together the next event. So we appreciate everyone's support there. Okay, looking around for any other questions we may have missed. Give you another chance for closing thoughts. Yeah, we have a few more minutes. I know in the video that Nate and Jason walked through with us, they did call out a couple different times about financing and leasing as options. So please do know we have, for those of you who might be newer or haven't had a large opportunity come through us yet, we have creative financing options available too to help you with making sure the whole project is affordable and can be in some cases spread out over time through a lease agreement or extended terms through like a DLL financing partner. So we have a few good options working with our credit folks, and we're happy to help guide you through that as well. And actually, I just noticed one of the survey results was asking if you are already working with someone from our team, and it looks like there's an awful lot of opportunity out there. So a few of you have, I've seen responses that many of you have not yet started working with us. So please introduce yourself through that email address, and we're very much looking forward to seeing your messages and getting started working together.
And if I can comment, and it ties it with the credit, it's pretty easy to open an account with us. D&H has really stepped forward over the pandemic, in particular with lines of credit, whether it's terms and or flooring accounts. But so we can help you get set up in addition to ProAV to everything else that Jason mentioned. And we had a lot of other vendors that are in our portfolio. We have a pretty significant cloud practice, just as significant Cisco practice. So some of these other vendors may play in well for us working together. And then other topics that we can help you with, if you can hear it and see it and interact with it, we can help you. Like that's our story. Video walls and digital signage have been coming back very significantly through COVID. Now the buildings are open and everybody's returning to a office of some kind, whether it's school or for business. So think wide and think audio and video with us. Collaboration is very significant. Because this is the new way to communicate on a regular basis. But thank you for that question. I think it was John.
I do see a couple more technical questions popping up. So hopefully, Jason and Nate, you're able to see some of those newer questions hitting. And here's one I can take. We're asking about digital signage. Is there a software as a solution? Do we, have cloud services on the digital signage side of the house? And we do, and we're even working with some new partners to bring into the mix. Do have, just other resources from a digital signage and content management perspective. So definitely have some partners that we are working with currently. And Nate or Jason, would you like to jump in on a couple of those newer questions?
Yeah, I think Nate already answered a question about what was the BYOD cable on a call, and that is from a manufacturer called Logitech, and they call it the switch with a Y in it. So it is like I said, it's a docking station that has been cut in half where you have one side at the table, one side at the display location with an interconnect between them. And that's actually what that USB A to C cable, the fiber cable, was being used for. There are different extensions that can be used, but that's the protocol that it uses between it. And then Roger asked about a client that he has where the display is mounted pretty high on a wall, and he just says, do I mount it above or below the screen? It's not, to an extent, above or below the screen. Think of it as how close is the closest person that's going to be viewing this, where the screen's located, and then also that camera, do they need to see the people that are, how close are they, and then also how far. With elevation of a camera, the farther it's going to be able to reach without sort of looking through other people. So if you're trying to capture, let's say, a sporting area or something like that, let's say in a gymnasium, then the higher you're going to want it to capture it. And then also, depending on the camera product, there are ones that zoom in much farther too. We have ones that zoom in plus 30x optical zoom, and these are commercial-based mountable cameras for these use cases. There's a lot of different options you have out there. So think of it not above or below the display, but the height is really what you're trying to get. Maybe, you know, the middle of the display is going to meet the height, and maybe putting it to the left or right of it is going to work better. So go by how close is someone going to be to it, and does it need to see that person, and then how far is the farthest person going to, that you want that camera to be able to see. So that's going to determine your height. No different than if we're doing a, you know, very small huddle space or a large conference room or a training center or a gymnasium or auditorium. That's why if you ever wonder, when we go to larger spaces, the cameras usually are not mounted down low. They're mounted up usually on the ceiling. And we have ones that both are in the front and the back of the room when we're using separate camera, PTZ cameras. So we'd have ones for audience capture at the front of the room to focus on the audience. And then we have rear mounted cameras that are tracking or focusing on the presenter. And there's different versions and options that we have for different size areas that you're trying to capture too. So it's a lot of different pieces out there. I hope that helps. And the question about the signage software for digital signage is we do actually have several different manufacturers. So a lot of the display companies actually either created their own software or they have a software that's been licensed with them. So we have both the hardware, meaning the compute module that runs the digital signage, is either built into the displays, or it is a separate category or signage box player. And then it's just registered to that service. And then it comes down to what level of management do you want? Do you want it just being able to, do you want to control it like 100% yourself? You just want the hardware and the tools? Or do you want someone also to help you build out the digital signage platform for you as well? So a little bit more artistic support. So we do have both available. So just let us know exactly what you're looking for. And then it comes also down to deployment. Do you just have one screen? Do you have two screens? Are they in the same building? Or do you have, 500 screens or thousands of screens all over the globe? All of that is capable to be managed. It just comes down to how you want to administrate it, who's going to be the people using it, and different types of messaging that you want on it. Is every display going to be a different unique message? Or let's say out of the 500 that you have that, you have half you want one message on, half you want a different message on, and how you want a scheduler to run on it too. There's so many different options we have out there. So just let us know what you're looking for. Some are built on a monthly subscription model, and some are built on a one-time purchase model. So when you buy the hardware product, you have a one-time license that you purchase for it. And sometimes they have ones where that lifetime purchase is good for like that version. So think of it as we go back and way back in Windows or older Mac OSs, where you would have, you'd have an upgrade fee. So some of the digital signage platforms have sort of like an upgrade fee. You can keep using it indefinitely for the older version, but the new version has an upgrade fee for it. So there's no one answer to it, because there's lots of options that you have out there, and it's all about finding the one that fits your ecosystem and also, the budget that you're looking for, or a revenue model that works best for you. Are you looking for uptime once up front, or are you looking for a subscription service? So we do have a lot of different options out there. And the other question was, who makes the bigger camera speaker unit? So the ones that we showed on display was a Logitech product, but we do have other manufacturers that do make all-in-one category camera, microphone, speaker bar products. So just the one in the video was Logitech branded, but we have several other vendors that manufacture them. Clear One is actually bringing one out currently. We have one from Aver that has a room unit. Then we also have a Vadio Huddle Shot one that's an all-in-one. So, but like I said, the environment determines the technology that you need for it. So for the biggest amount of advice that I can provide to everybody is the better information that you bring us, just like all the questions that we talked about, not just, usually I spend almost no time talking about any brand of a product. Everything is built around your environment and what you're trying to do with the technology. So what is the investment in it? And then it's real about just getting the hardware and services that are required to make that investment, the value that everyone's putting into it, both as a reseller and the end user. So everyone is, happy with the design and it's functional and it works for them and it worked within a budget that they're, that values them. So it's either, like I said, either one time or a subscription service. So, and we've have a lot of different changes with that. So, but we appreciate it. Hope that helps.
And to add on to that, I think just because of the current challenges that we're seeing in the industry with product availability, some of these solutions, we may get more than less with certain vendors. So just a value add that I think is strong for us at D&H is we're able to, because of Jason's knowledge and the other solution architects, be able to offer the technology and then know that there's vendors that have that technology to, we might not have A, but we have B. So just keep thinking of that as you bring us your opportunities. I always like to say, we want to learn about your projects and along the way, you're going to learn more how we can help.
No worries. One last call for questions or Q&A. But if nobody does have any more questions, just want to let everybody still know it's dnh.com/ProAV, as well as if it's a pre-sales request, you can also email us at D&H Presales. We also have D&H.com Solutions Lab, D&H.com, DHTV for our broadcasts. And we do have an upcoming Cisco webcast next week as well. So if there's anything else we can do to support you, make sure to contact us. Either just call one of our main numbers and request a ProAV specialist, or the best thing I would say to do is just email us at the ProAV, the dnh.com/ProAV is going to get to the bucket. And anytime that anyone has a solution design or a pro services request, most of those do come to me and we help vet out those solutions. And we definitely want to work with you or resellers to support the end user's goals so we can make the entire project successful. But if that's all, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for everyone joining today.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Cheers.